favorite topic. Ask any of us, we can talk about it all day long. So my team's here. We've got Matt Kranchke, David Shipp. I think Brandon and Andy are outside for right now because they're scanning people in. Connor and I, and then Brian Page is helping us out today too. So we are thrilled that you are here. You know, I like the afternoon spot because that means they have some faith in us that we're going to keep everybody awake, even though lunch was fantastic. And come on in and have a seat. So this is such a good opportunity for us. We spend all of our time watching this industry, reading the news articles, paying attention to what's going on, because we know that you're busy running your businesses and you're trusting us to tell you when something is happening or there are trends or different things that you need to be paying attention to. And we do that relentlessly. So we take that very seriously, and we're honored to partner alongside of you as you pursue your retirement plan business. So this week is a really exciting time for us, I think for Brian and I especially, because 5 years ago this week, we were brought on board to bring this offering in-house. It had been outsourced, it had lived through a few different iterations, and I think the sentiment from the community was, it's okay, but it's not damn good. And that meant something to the firm. It needed to be better. So decided it's time to hire the nerds, right? The people who spend all their time living and breathing retirement plans. And it is really, really exciting to see how much we've built, how much we've all grown together, and the community that we've developed. And I love what I do because I absolutely believe that you guys are the best advisors out there. If you weren't, I wouldn't be so energized. I'd go back to handling the plans directly myself. But instead, I get to partner with you guys as you're out there making a difference every day. So in these last 5 years, a lot has changed. We've seen a lot of consolidation in the industry. We've seen a lot of service offerings change. We've seen plan sponsors become more educated that, hey, maybe they should actually expect some service from their advisors. And so there really does, there's become a differentiating aspect to this business. The people who are delivering on the value versus the people who aren't really doing their jobs. And I think the business is shifting and continuing to shift to those people who do those jobs really, really well. So to keep this fun and exciting today, we divided it up into 3 sections. So I'm going to have Connor up in just a moment to talk a little bit about the industry and how it's changed and how the table stakes have changed for those who want to be really successful in this line of business. Then I'm going to come up and talk a little bit more about managing practice, because really in order for you to be successful in this business, you need to figure out how to scale this line of business, especially while you're serving different types of clients. And then just for fun, we're going to bring Brian Page up so that he can give us some tips, some know-how, some fun stories, because he is out there in the field working with plan sponsors and participants day in and day out. And I have a feeling, I haven't heard what he's going to say, but I have a feeling we're going to have some fun stories that we're going to share today. We do have a microphone floating around. Andy has it, so if you have any questions, want to share a story, we love the success stories. We're filled with them. Just let us know, and we'll make sure you can ask your question, because this is really about you guys. We want to make sure that you have your notebook out, you take a few notes, something that's meaningful to you that you can go back and implement when you get back to the office. All right?
All right.
The official clicker handoff.
This is the handoff. So how many people here are Jeopardy fans? Any Jeopardy fans? All right, so we are huge Jeopardy fans back at the office, and one of our morning rituals is to gather in David Shipp's office. And David will give us the Jeopardy, final Jeopardy question of the day to test us to see if we can get this or not. And last week we had a really interesting question that I think ties together the theme of chemistry and science, and I thought we'd share it with you. So this is the answer here, or the question, I'm sorry. So fittingly, the symbols for this, the 4 elements in sodium citrate, which can make cheese melt easier, spell this 5-letter word. Does anybody have?
I know what it is, but I
can't. Okay. Anybody got this? Come on, somebody. Sodium citrate. Okay, that's good. Started on the right. Did somebody give up? We got the name. Go ahead. What is it?
Nacho.
Nacho. So today what I'm going to talk a little bit about is just how the table stakes have changed in this industry. I think, you know, a lot of times if you would have a plan fall into your lap, that's sort of how we felt like a lot of advisors come across or come into this business. They'll just have something fall into their lap. And actually, there's something that we call those types of advisors sometimes in the retirement plan space, and it's a blind squirrel. That even a blind squirrel sometimes can find a nut, right? You don't have to do anything, it's just going to come to you. And that's really not a good strategy for earning business in this space, really, and that's not a good strategy for keeping business. And so, if, you know, keeping with the Jeopardy theme, the theme here is potpourri. Well, let's start by talking about this. Client experience. And so, clients are expecting something different from this space. And you're not compared to other retirement plan advisors. You're not compared to other advisors when you go out there and do this business. What you're being compared to really are these different providers that we know are out there providing these very seamless, easy, smooth type things. If anybody has ever been involved with a retirement plan transaction, you know that they're not easy, smooth, quick. Those things don't happen really, really cleanly. And so what we want to try to do is be in that space where we're trying to provide you as close as possible to a turnkey experience. And that's really why we exist, is we want to make this space really easy to get into and a really easy space to stay in. And so we want to help you retain that business. And so we keep it, you know, really close tabs on trends and legislation and all of those things. And so what we really want to take some time is talk a little bit about opportunities for playing offense and defense in this space. And so these are really the areas that we're going to talk through on my side, and we'll go through these pretty quickly. But we'll talk about fiduciary governance, your value proposition in this space. We'll talk a little bit about some of those value-added things like health savings accounts, financial wellness, and then we'll talk about corporate social responsibility, which is something that you're going to be hearing more sort of in, you know, the broader wealth management industry, but certainly in this retirement plan space, it can be a really beneficial thing for you to understand corporate social responsibility and how you can stand out in that space. So first of all, let's talk about fiduciary governance. I think that this is a really scary statistic. A few years ago, a retirement plan provider went out there and asked plan sponsors, retirement plan sponsors who sponsor plans, and they are fiduciaries. That's the punchline of this. They are actually fiduciaries to these plans, and they asked them the question, are you a fiduciary to the retirement plan that you sponsor? And the answer came back 51%, which is, I guess the majority of people say, yes, I am a fiduciary, and then 49% either don't know that they are a fiduciary, they didn't understand the question, or they think that they're actually not a fiduciary to the retirement plan. That's a little scary, because every single one of them is responsible for these plans. And if you think about like the industry in the plans, there's 80 million participants in these qualified retirement plans. There's $5.7 trillion inside of these retirement plans. And that represents a really big market opportunity. And most of those plans, I would say, are in very outdated or outmoded structures right now. So we can talk a little bit about how we can fix that. But one of the things that we can do to play offense and defense is educating the plan sponsors that we already work with today about their fiduciary responsibility. That's something that's really not happening out there. Only 25% of plan sponsors between $1 and $5 million have actually had any sort of fiduciary training at all. The Department of Labor, when they come knocking on the door to audit the plan, one of the things that they will ask is, have you received any sort of specific fiduciary training? And so one of the things that we felt like we needed to do is provide you a resource. And so this is going to be available to you starting now. We have a presentation out there with some supporting materials called Understanding Your Fiduciary Responsibilities as a Plan Sponsor. And there's a couple different ways that we see this being used. Number one, for your current clients. You need to be helping your current clients understand their fiduciary responsibilities. And so this gives you that tool to helping the investment committees and the clients understand what duties they have to perform in order to meet their fiduciary requirements. Also, we've seen this used as a opportunity for gaining new clients. So think about the types of audiences that you want to get in front of. They're business owner audiences. We can provide this resource to you, and you can either present it yourself or somebody on this team can help you present that to prospective plan sponsors, or you can work with centers of influence. So we've seen this used in CPA audiences to get in front of people and show them, hey, your clients, our shared clients, have these opportunities, responsibilities. And so this is something that is available to you, and we want you to be able to play offense and defense with a tool like this. If you have questions about this, talk to me afterwards. We'll provide it to you. It's unbranded. We can brand it for your firm. It's something that you can provide to your clients. And so there's some supporting materials to this and a script, and so it's all sort of ready to go if it's something that you think that would be helpful for your clients. In addition to this, one of the things that we also feel like is really important that just simply is not being done is really articulating your value proposition. A lot of you may have really done a very good job of working on your value propositions as it relates to your wealth clients, but maybe you haven't taken as much time to take a step back and say, what is my value proposition for plan sponsors and for business owners who need to have a great retirement plan for the participants and need to retire themselves and have some goals themselves, and how we can use retirement plans in order to accomplish those goals. And so taking some time to establish a value proposition is a really important thing that you need to do, and we've provided some materials. We're going to make available some materials for you to have a value proposition, or how do we think about this in this space? Because certainly there's an investment advisory agreement, you have AD brochures and things like that you can hand out, but those things aren't written in such a way that sometimes plan sponsors feel like they understand what it is that you are doing for the fees that you're charging. And so we want to provide resources to help you do that. Certainly you can talk to one of us and we can help you sort of work on this. And again, it's branded for you, it's your own words, and so it's sort of really customized to meet your needs. So value proposition is something that we are saying good advisors or great advisors presenting to their plan sponsor clients. So just outlining what are your services, how do you articulate your services. Again, these are really good tools to have in your toolbox. So some of the value-added things that we're seeing, just changes in the industry. I think we're looking for other opportunities where we can provide the types of services that we provide. We provide excellent advice. So how else can you help those plan sponsors? And one of the things that we can be doing is working with health savings accounts. They're certainly in the same vein in terms of there's investments there, and if they want to retain the types of investment philosophy, we work with several providers where we have solutions that can provide you that evidence-based investment philosophy for health savings accounts. So maybe this is something, again, offensive and defensive play for your current clients. You may want to add these types of services for your current clients, and this is something to also talk to potential clients about as well. Because certainly there are a lot of providers out there. This industry, the HSA industry, is where retirement plans were several years ago, and they're sort of slowly coming along. But one of the things that we want to do is make sure that the platform fits our philosophy. And then first dollar investing, that's another tool. That's something that we have a solution for first dollar investing. A lot of times these are being used as planning tools rather than just accounts that people are getting into. And most solutions right now have a $1,000 requirement or something in order to even invest your money. And so this is something that we wanted to provide a solution for. So we have solutions, whether it's an individual group, and we have providers that provide great materials in order to support these things. So these are all things that we can provide. And again, it's about adding value beyond just sort of, I'm going to come out and I'm going to do an education meeting, and I'm going to throw some donuts on the table and get your enrollment forms done, and it's all good. So we want to provide that extra sort of step of value. One of the things that we're starting to see a lot more, and is really important in your communities, is this idea of corporate social responsibility. And you may have not seen as much on this, but the question, this is something that you're already doing. So we obviously work with the best advisors. who care about the communities that they live and they work in. And so the question is, how is that apparent to your potential client base? So how are you currently serving the communities that you live in and that you work in? And then how are you articulating it to those people? Sharing it really does matter. And a lot of people think, hey, I gotta do this in the closet, in the dark, nobody knows about what I'm doing that's good. And maybe somehow that's a virtue, but really, good behavior begets good behavior. As you're out there and you're doing good in the communities, sharing that with prospective clients on how you're doing that is a really good practice. So just again, as you branch out, you have other forms of media that you're sharing these with. Make sure that you're going out there and you're pushing out these things, because it is really important for those that are out there to see what you are doing. In terms of statements, a lot of people have a mission statement or a vision statement, but as you look at your firm and you say, what is the good that we're doing out in the communities that we're working in, some sort of social responsibility statement is something that you might want to look at as you start to put your message out there in the world. How are you articulating what you're about beyond just the managing wealth? You have this opportunity, and I think we've heard it several sessions already. You have this huge opportunity to make a huge impact in the industry that you're in. How are you pushing that out there? How are you showing that to the community that you want to work with? And then how do you market that? And that's something that we're seeing a lot in the retirement plan space. So you see a lot of the great advisors going out there and showing, hey, we work with this type of client and this is why. And really articulating very well how they're doing that. This is just an example of that. So one of the things that's out there right now is the 4.01K race for financial fitness. And you can see all the cities that this is actually happening in. The question is, well, who's sponsoring that? Who's making that happen? Well, they're 401K advisors in the cities that you live and work in. And so the question is, if you're not sort of there and you're not involved, the question is, are you in this space? Do you care about this? And so that's just something that you might want to take a look at, getting involved in something like this. And again, this is a based on sort of that corporate social responsibility. They sponsor that Smarter Tomorrow Foundation, and that Smarter Tomorrow Foundation make sure that there's financial literacy materials in schools, and that the underserved get financial literacy. And that's one of the ways that they're showing that corporate social responsibility. So, the other thing is just thinking differently about this business. I think, again, it's very easy to just do what you've always done just because it's worked so far, and then just not think about how things are changing and the experiences that our advisors are looking at. And I've worked with a lot of advisors in my career, and you can tell good advisors from the great advisors, and those great advisors really take extra time to think about how do I need to customize my business for that client or for the particular client that I'm actually looking for. And we'll talk a little bit about that. One of the things that we're focusing a lot more on is participant outcomes. Participant outcomes are, what is our goal for these retirement plans? Is it simply to increase participation? Is it simply to make sure that the deferrals are going up? Or do we have a broader, deeper concern for the participants themselves, and are we actually helping those individuals retire? So thinking more about the outcomes of those participants and then designing plans that get to those outcomes. Again, there's over 500,000 plans in the United States, and Alex alluded a little bit to this, but there really are not enough good advisors in this space to do this work. A lot of times we'll stumble across a plan. It's in the lowest cost share class. It's very transparent. It's very clear the advisor's doing their job, and that's not necessarily a plan that we necessarily want to go after. But there's a lot of plans out there that have high share class investments that are not transparent in fees, and those are the plans that we have a big work to do in this room to go after those types of plans, and we can help you sort of target those types of plans. But it's too, we have to work together in order to go after those types of plans. And so to accomplish this, we just have to understand our competitors. There aren't enough competitors. to really do this industry some justice and actually get some real work done here. There's a lot of plants that are really being overserved, so we need to have sort of an abundance mentality when it comes to this, because there are simply not enough advisors in this space to do the kind of work that we need to do. And then the last question, I guess, is just how are you differentiating yourself? And I'm going to leave you with a little story here. So there's an advisor down in Florida, Orlando. His name is Jason Chapek. And what he actually does is he brings a taco truck to his enrollment meetings. So let's talk about retirement. This isn't his truck, right? So like it's some sort of partnership with a company down there. But you know, it changes the conversation, right, for the participants. It changes the mindset for those who are being involved there, because you know we're not just, again, it's not just donuts or pizza. It's just a little bit different experience for those participants. And if you think about it, nobody's going to fire the taco truck advisor, right? Like if they're used to getting tacos from this guy, they're not going to fire that guy. And it's just he's giving them a different experience than what they're used to. And he's not doing a lot of work in order to get this done, right? This doesn't require that much, thinking through it. It just needs thinking about your participants, understanding what sort of experience they're going to have, and then sort of executing on that and making it clear to them. So those are the sorts of things that we're thinking about right now. And again, things are changing all the time, and we're interested in hearing from you and what we can do better. But certainly we just want to make sure that, if you have any questions for us, talk to us afterwards, give us your feedback, because that's what we need, and that's really what we need in order to sort of push this business forward. So with that, I'm going to leave it to Kristen here. Thank you.
The taco truck guy, that's awesome. You have a question?
Sorry, Connor. I was wondering if I could ask a question going back to the issue of fiduciary.
Sure.
I have a few plans, mostly smaller in size, and I think you're exactly right that a lot of sponsors don't think they have much of a responsibility at all. The response I get most of the time is, well, that's what I hired you for. And I know that my role, I'm a 321, and Buckingham's a 338. Am I correct that the sponsors 316?
Yeah, so they have administrative duties that are falling under the 316 duties, yeah.
So, from a selling point, a value add, I don't get a habit of coming out to say, these are your responsibilities and these are mine. I kind of portray that I'm the go-to guy. If you need anything, come to me. But the question that comes up sometimes is, well, if you're telling me that I am a fiduciary, which maybe is surprise to many, where are my liabilities? It all comes down to lawsuits and liabilities, I find, when you introduce the word fiduciary.
Yeah.
And I struggle maybe to provide an example or two.
Okay.
Like, well, if your office manager is embezzling money,
That's what this trading is all about. So that answers all their questions. Like that. And we have fiduciary liability checklists and things like that that are also available on the Resource Center. We can get all these things to you. So I actually was at a firm a couple of weeks ago, and they actually brought all their clients in and they put together a fiduciary liability binder using all of our checklists. It was all in one place. And they did this for all of their clients. And some of their clients were like, oh my goodness, I don't know what to do. Some of their clients were like, oh my goodness, this is everything that I needed. Like it's one place that I can go to. So I really think that there's opportunity here where you can add a tremendous amount of value doing a minimal amount of work, because some of those resources are out there available, and then give them that clear picture of what do I need to do and checks those boxes. So I think we should talk afterwards. There's a huge opportunity there.
I agree. Thank you, Bob. Are we good? Any other questions about that? We're really excited about that. So one of our initiatives this year was that we wanted to try to bring forth more content that could be used in an event setting to either help drum up business or to shore up the existing business. And as Connor mentioned, that was really a passion project because we saw this need that wasn't being filled in the industry. And what they need to know that they are criminally and civilly liable for what they do with regard to the plan. They can off-shoulder some of that, the investments, all of us. They might MEP and off-shoulder some of the 316 work, but they are ultimately always responsible for their plan. So helping them with that is a big differentiator, I think, right now for an advisor. So that's awesome. So switching gears into practice management, I want to nerd out just a little bit, but if you take a look at something really basic like Ralph Waldo Emerson's law of compensation, right? The compensation that you earn is directly commensurate with how much value you bring, how much your contribution is to your clients, and it only makes sense that if you would like to increase that over time, you need to find ways to increase the value that you bring and the number of customers that you serve. So one of the big shifts in the industry right now is partnering up with people. The folks in this room are really smart because they've been doing that for a long time. But that is where we like to see where we can add value. So first and foremost, I want to say just understand your role as an advisor. I have conversations all year, every year with advisors, and I hear stories about some of the incredible, yet incredibly shocking things some of them do for their clients. I think it's really important to set expectations and understand what your role is. And unless you've intentionally decided we are going to upload payroll files, that is not something an advisor typically does, right? So we need to craft what our role is going to be and explain and set expectations appropriately. And when you set those expectations, then you can figure out how to exceed those expectations. So first and foremost, we expect advisors to understand it's all about relationship management, right? We want you to know your clients, really know their business so that you can act as more of a consultant, that you can understand the big pictures of their benefits package, what their goals are for their retirement plan and their benefits, what's important to them. Because, of course, if you don't know what the goals are, then taking a shot in the dark and trying to actually meet them. And if you're not meeting them, then somebody else will be happy to kind of slide in and do that for you, and you'll lose the business. So again, it's the offense and the defense at the same time, just doing really smart things all along in the process. You're going to quarterback the relationship with the service providers. You have us to help do that as well. We're vetting all the people that we think are great to work with so that we can deliver a program to you that's a lot easier than going it on your own. Trustee and plan sponsor, as Congress talked about, fiduciary governance assistance, having regular meetings. Sometimes advisors will come to us and say, what do I do? They won't meet with us. Well, I would document that and I would put the package together anyway and I would still send it to them and say, these are all the things you need for your audit file. These are the things that we would have talked about. Please let us know when we can come do that because it really is important for your plan that we're regularly meeting. And then participant education. And I think a lot of this has shifted over the years. I don't think it has to be in person, especially if that doesn't make sense. But group presentations, offering one-on-one meetings. I think Brian will tell you that they use, it's not Calendly, I always forget, Time Trade. They use Time Trade so that when people are in different cities and they're not there on site that any given day and they want to talk to somebody, there's an easy, scalable way to reach out, schedule 15 minutes, talk to your advisor when those questions are appropriately about investments. And then also setting expectations. So you're steering the I'm locked out of the website questions back to the appropriate degree that can actually help them, and it frees up a little bit more time on your desk. So the next thing I want to stress is you don't have to be the expert. Now, absolutely, our passion is trying to make you one of us. We want to rise you up and teach you and help you be the best retirement advisor you can be. But I think one of the things that worries people, they don't want to even take an opportunity that crosses their desk is because they think, no, I'm really, really good at this, and I don't know very much about this. And believe me, that's what we were built for. Reach out, ask a question. The most important thing to do is surround yourself with kind of your dream team of experts, and we've done that. We've compiled them for you. So not just on our team, but also with our service providers that we work with, and the Buckingham advisors, and all the different people in this community are so willing to help out and have conversations to help you create the solutions that you need to serve your clients. Ask the right questions. We have whole documents typed up. I think Matt did this once. Discovery questions. What are the right questions to ask to get to the needs? Because anybody ever talk with a plan sponsor? They don't always know what they're asking. They don't always know. So asking the right questions, listening for the right cues, figuring out what they need, and then getting them in contact with the right people. So you're going to be the connector. You don't have to worry about having all the answers for sure. And then you're going to learn as you go. And absolutely take advantage of all the different opportunities that we have for you. So we have peer groups that are running, we have annual training, we have quarterly webcasts. I've got 2 different team members developing education for other things right now as well. So we love this, we love what we do, and we have all kinds of things in the works that are going to help you guys be the best you can be. But don't get hung up on not being the expert, because that's kind of why you have us. Set appropriate boundaries. Now I know Brian's going to touch about that. I think he has a story about this, so this will be much more fun than anything I'm going to say to you. But I have seen some situations go very awry with plan sponsors, and maybe the payroll person doesn't understand something, or I'm trying to see if we have the advisor in the room. We ended up with kind of a nightmare plan because that plan sponsor was coming up with all kinds of things he thought the record keeper should do. And I've been in this business 25 years and I've never heard them come out of anyone's mouth before. So really just setting expectations about here's all the parties that are going to help you run your plan, here's what everybody does, and set those appropriate boundaries so they don't get encroached to the point that you can't do your job well in an efficient manner. So create processes and scalability and leverage your team. I listened to, has anybody heard, this is the wrong industry, so you're not going to have heard of this guy, but has anybody heard of the podcast with Brian Buffini? So he's a motivational, yes, well that's because you have to listen to me every day. Thank you, good job, Andy. He is a fantastic speaker, and he has a huge, I think it's called the Mastermind Conference in San Diego every year. Thousands and thousands of people attend. He is in the real estate business, so that's why he's coaching agents, and that's why he has a crossover into this. But he had a podcast recently with one of his mentors who has since passed away. But his name was Dr. Alex Lackey, and people called him the most organized man on earth. So Dr. Alex Lackey, and I just want to break this down because sometimes, you know, we get so washed up in, I don't have time for this, I don't have time, I don't have time. We all have that problem, right? There are 1,440 minutes in a day. You should probably be sleeping about 480 of those, so you have almost 1,000 minutes every day to figure out how you're going to use that time. Dr. Alex Lackey said, every achievement in your life depends on how you use your time. Every achievement in your life depends on how you use your time. Absolutely agree with that. So know where you're headed and plan your calendar in reverse. So if you're saying, I want to go after this business, but I just don't have time right now, well, put a goal on the calendar and then back up the, you know, I think Alex would say, create your blueprint and then set out the roadmap, right? Like, how are you going to get there? And then hold yourself accountable to those steps. Do you need an accountability partner? We will do that for you. We'll be happy to follow up with you and help you create those plans. He also said something I think is so important, and as I get older, I understand this more and more. Carve out time for creative thinking and planning. So often in our businesses, we are heads down, nose to the grindstone, and you need events like this, or the Retirement Solutions Seminar, or just carving out time in your day to create that space. Because your real good thinking, your creative thinking is going to come in that space that you find. Either right before you fall asleep, or while you're hiking in the mountains, or you're doing something else. And that's when things are going to start clicking. 20% of your brain is actively working, and 80% of the time it's passively trying to solve those problems. Think about something when you go to bed, and maybe when you wake up, you'll have a solution. I get pretty excited about this, but create your processes and scalability. Build your processes, assign ownership, execute and review. Is it time to hire somebody else to help with these types of tasks? Or even a summer intern? And you can help teach them about retirement plans. We'll help teach them. And then set the path for how you're going to market your business. There are a lot of opportunities if you just take the time to sit down and figure out what do you want this to look like. Or for the folks, and I don't have my glasses on, so I don't know exactly who's in the room. But for the folks in the room that have a lot of plans, we have people with 40, 50, 60 retirement plans and up. I think it's really smart every once in a while to take a step back and just break it down. So earlier this month, we rented a space in the Cortex, which is like Silicon Valley, St. Louis style, called Innovation Hall. And all the retirement plan folks went over there and we decided, let's just break it apart. Let's break it. Let's talk about all the things we do. Who do we want to be in 5 years? Because just because you've been successful right now doesn't mean you're going to be successful in 5 years if you're still doing the same thing. And then what is our blueprint to get that? So we started thinking that way. I think that is a great thing I can suggest for other people too. When you look at your practice and what's going on, is it time to take a step back from it and see what's working and not working? And we've been changing so fast and furiously since we started 5 years ago that if you haven't listened to some of the things that we've developed and some of the things that we're working on, there really might be a lot more ways that we can help you that you don't even realize. Know what tool, look at that, the perfect lead-in. Know what tools are available. So we do have some additional content coming, and I know Alex would like to drop the secret there this morning that we do finally have some new education coming. We're really excited about that. Everything that we have to date, we've created in-house, but this time we've actually hired a marketing firm that specializes in 401ks to help us create something beautiful for you guys that you'll be able to take out. It'll be scripted, it'll look nice, we can customize it for your firm, and you'll have something new to present next time you go out to your clients. Plan sponsor fiduciary training, of course, and then just let us help. It's always worth a conversation. I've had so many great ones just since I got here yesterday of things that people are working on, things that they could use help with, and don't underestimate the ways that we can help consult on your business, because we nerd out on that stuff. It's really fun for us. We're happy to do it. I also want to remind you to market your business. You will never take a sales course in your life that doesn't all boil down to action, right? You have to do something every single day to get your pipeline moving, to stay in front of people, to stay in the forefront. You can be posting things on LinkedIn, sharing articles, leveraging your centers of influence, making sure they know what you offer, making sure that you're networking with the appropriate people, events, content, social media, website, all those kinds of things, and we can help you with those things. Amy Cuddy, she spoke here a few years ago. I don't know if anybody remembers her. She did a TED Talk on body language, right? I should be up here with the Superman pose. You guys remember Amy Cuddy? Last week at a conference, she was quoted as saying, "Trust is the conduit of influence. It's the medium through which ideas travel." And I love that, and I think that it is so true. So as you market your business, as like Ivan was talking about yesterday, as you build your website, so that people can really get to know you and know what you offer and what you believe in, that's actually going to help build trust. Doing events, being seen as an expert in your field and somebody who handles certain types of things, it's going to help build that trust and help build that community. So find your niche. Who's the best fit? Business, size, location. Don't try to be all things to all people. That doesn't work. Salespeople like that always scare me, because then the people back in the office are like, "You promised what?" Don't do that to anybody. Understand exactly what you have to offer. Find opportunities to be seen and known in that niche. And we have advisors doing this all the time, right? We have an advisor who grew up with a father as a dentist, so he's always focused on dental clients and dental 401k plans and cash balance plans. We have another advisor, one in California, that focuses on country clubs. And once you have an in that business, those people talk. And it'll be easier and easier to get more business in that and become known for specializing in that field. And then lastly, before we bring Brian up, don't race to the bottom on your fees. Fees, it's a loaded conversation. I've had one conversation since I got here about fees. We are open to your thoughts on those, by the way. But I want to suggest to everybody, instead of racing to the bottom like everybody else, just be sure that you're earning your fees. Make sure you're priced fairly, that you don't treat yourself like a commodity. What you are offering is not the same thing that the person down the street is offering. And if you don't value your work, no one else is going to value your work either. We definitely have firms that price higher than the norm because they want to be seen as a boutique and a niche and something that's doing more than other people are doing. You can go all over the place with pricing, and we're happy to help consult you on that. But don't give yourself away. It's not going to do anybody any good. And you need to find a way to make this this business profitable or you might not want to stay in it. And practice communicating your value proposition. Earlier this year, half of our team went to the Dimensional, it was in St. Louis. It was a whole session on how to communicate effectively and how to make sure you can communicate your value proposition. And that's going to include maybe writing it down, altering it, practice it with a friend, make sure that it comes out very, very smoothly. And the Dimensional associate who presented this did a fantastic job. But I remember him saying, you could be asked 100 questions anytime you meet with a client. You're not going to know all those answers. But look at maybe the top 10 that you get asked all the time. Write those answers down in advance. Have some statistics at hand that you can just roll off your tongue. $5.7 billion in retirement, $1 trillion in retirement plans. Make sure you're ready to go so that when you do have the chance to those conversations, and something else I've learned from Alex is don't try to solve all the questions in that conversation. The point is to leave them wanting more, right? And ask for that second conversation and build your business that way. So does anybody have any questions on this? Because next up I'm going to bring up Ryan Page. All right.
Good afternoon, everybody. Wow, lively. So that's the title of my segment. Kristen and Connor are going to make sure I don't go overtime for you all. Merriam-Webster's dictionary defines brilliant as striking and distinctive. I like the British definition as well. It's excellence. So a brilliant plan is a noble pursuit for any plan sponsor. But like an athlete who needs a coach to draw out that excellence, I think most plan sponsors need an advisor to draw out the brilliance of the plan. And I'm going to focus today on bold conversations that you can have with your plan sponsor clients. And I'm going to focus primarily on three types of bold conversations. The first one is what Kristen already alluded to, gutsy expectations. So she was sitting at her desk. She was processing the week's payroll. She had to download information from ADP. She had to type it into a spreadsheet. She had to upload that file into the record-keeping website. And once that was complete, she turned her attention to reviewing distribution forms and collecting data for the year-end census file. Now, these are all perfectly normal duties of the plan administrator that's tasked with the day-to-day responsibility of the 401k, right? Except in this real-life story, this person was not the plan administrator, this person was the plan's advisor. Why was the plan advisor doing these day-to-day roles and activities that a plan administrator should do? Because this plan advisor had never set proper expectations with the plan sponsor. She said yes to everything. Saying yes to everything is not good customer service. Know your role, know your value proposition. Know your expertise, know what you want to do, and set expectations that make you shine. Now, setting expectations with clients, I know, it feels wrong, like saying no to your clients kind of feels wrong sometimes, right? It feels very gutsy to say no to your client. It's absolutely important sometimes to say no by setting expectations. So in 2018, the fast food restaurant that generated the most revenue was what?
Chick-fil-A.
No, what? McDonald's. Do you know how much revenue they brought in 2018 by any chance? Okay, well I'm good because I do, and I'm going to tell you. McDonald's brought in $38 billion in revenue in 2018. Number two, Starbucks. came in at 13 billion. Number 3, Subway, came in at number 3 with 11 billion. Anybody know who came in 8th place? I have a clue. Burger King's not coming in 8th place. Chick-fil-A came in 8th place at 9 billion. Now what's interesting about Chick-fil-A is they operate less than 1/6 of any of this number of stores of the top 3. Yet, they generate more per store in revenue than all of the top 3 combined. And Chick-fil-A says no, and they say no a lot. If anybody's wanted a chicken sandwich on Sunday, you know they say no a lot. They say no to being open on Sunday. Now back when they started, no big deal, everybody was closed on Sunday. But today, it's a gutsy move. And today, it's part of their brand, it's part of who they are, it's part of what they're all about. They even have a store in an NFL stadium, and they're still closed on Sundays. For those of you that don't follow football, NFL plays their football games when? On Sundays. It's part of the brand, it's part of who they are. But that's not all they say no to. They also said no to value menus and dollar menus. All the other competitors did, they didn't. I had one franchise owner tell me that that was a strategic decision in corporate as to not devalue the product. They also said no to self-serve soft drink refill station as to not degrade the customer or the client experience. Setting no or setting expectations is absolutely essential. In fact, the Ritz-Carlton Leadership Center holds that philosophy. They say that it's absolutely essential to set expectations, and that every interaction you have with your clients is an opportunity to set expectations, realistic expectations, and to diminish the possibility for future disappointment. Setting expectations builds trust and actually enhances the client experience. Be gutsy in your expectations. Here's a couple general rules of thumb about setting expectations. Number 1, be honest with your promises. Don't oversell it. Don't oversell it. Number 2, general rule of thumb, be honest in your role. Don't overextend yourself. Like the story of the advisor early on. Number 3, be honest in your time frame. Don't over-obligate yourself. Bold advisors cultivate brilliant plans when they have conversations about gutsy expectations. Set proper expectations. The second conversation that's bold is courageous recommendations. So, there's a manufacturing firm that excluded a division of their company from the 401k plan. It was a small division. They excluded those employees from their 401k plan, a small division in a small town in southeastern Kansas. Now this town was so small that they had a sign as you enter the town from the state highway. They had a sign at the beginning of the city that read this. You guys ready for it? I took a picture of it. Here we go. Now, if you're from a small town and you're like, yeah, I don't understand, I don't know why people laugh. I don't normally associate tourism activities with Dairy Queen. Why is there an economy lodge up there? I'll tell you why. Because sometimes it takes more than a day to enjoy everything that the Grill and Chill has to offer. Can you imagine waking up one day and saying, hey kids, we're going on vacation? What? No, not Disney World. Dairy Queen. Okay. The point is, there was a manufacturing firm that had a division in this town that excluded from the 401k. It was a small enough division, they didn't have any compliance issues, there was no coverage testing issues. And the new advisor on the plan, though, recommended that the plan sponsor include that division in the 401k so that those people could save for their retirement. What did the plan sponsor say? No. The next meeting, the advisor recommended the same thing. To include those people so they can save for retirement, and the plan sponsor said? No, not yet. This went on until one occasion, one meeting, the plan sponsor had this really, really brilliant idea. Anybody want to know what it was? Let's include this division in the 401k plan. And what did the advisor say? That's a really good idea. I wish I would have thought of that. Always give them credit. I worked with an advisor one time who he strongly recommended to all of his clients that they make the employee education meetings mandatory. He also strongly recommended that they auto-increase everybody on an annual basis. And this was years ago before it was easy to do that. It was a very manual process. He would recommend that year in, year out until every single one of his clients had mandatory employee education and automatically increase his plan. Now I'm not talking about 2 plans, he had 35, 40 plans. But he kept after it until he did it. His courageous conversations, his courageous recommendations, created brilliant plans as evidenced by all of his plans had significantly higher than average deferral rate, participation rate, and average account balance among the non-highly compensated employees. Courageous recommendations get results. Here's something we have to remember about ourselves. Ultimately, your duty is to the plan participants. Period. End of story. Doesn't go any further than that. Your duty ultimately is to the plan participants. Your role as a plan advisor is that as an advocate for plan participants. So what courageous recommendations are, in very easy terms, are the recommendations that seek to protect and enhance the employee retirement savings. Now, Kristen referenced earlier about plan review meetings and what if they don't have those, or what if the plan sponsor doesn't want them. I think part of courageous recommendations are doing those things that protect employee assets. One of those is strongly encouraging or recommending or even requiring that plan sponsors meet with you at least on an annual basis to review the plan. But it also might be requiring them to make sure that they follow the plan document. Not all plan sponsors do that. Or fix corrections properly, or distribute notices timely, or upload contributions on a timely basis. Your job is to kind of hold their feet to the fire and make sure they're doing it right. But it's also about making recommendations of things that enhance employee retirement savings. Things like automatic increase or automatic enrollment. Things like adding a match or increasing the match or stretching the match. Things like adding Roth. Things like changing eligibility. Be an advocate for the plan participants. The plan sponsor can always say no. If they don't have the money for it, it doesn't fit within the budget, they can always say no. Gutsy expectations, courageous recommendations. The third types of conversations that have is heroic questions. What are heroic questions? Questions that save. So I had a wealth file. Thank you, Beth. Thank you for giggling. I've worked on it for months. So I had a wealth advisor introduce me to a 401k prospect. This prospect wanted to start a 401k plan for the company. So on the phone with the prospect, he said this. He said, I would like to start a 401k plan for my company and have the same benefits that I provide to my other company. Now, you know that tingle in the back of your neck you get when Norman Bates pulls back the curtain? You know? That's what I got here. And for everybody that enjoys compliance, you know why. For everybody else, you're like, I don't get it. What's the punchline? The punchline is we had a control group issue. And there were some issues with that. Those people should have been included in the other 401k plan years prior. But let me tell you a little secret. And the TPAs in the room will probably, hopefully, agree with me. The TPAs, the people doing the compliance testing, only know what the plan sponsor tells them. The reason this company was never included in the other 401k plan is because the TPA didn't know about it. Oh, they asked. TPA asks every year on a questionnaire, do you own any other companies? Plan sponsor doesn't always fill that out, right? Or they have somebody else fill it out? They don't know. And so the TPA can't do their work. But you as advisors are in a very unique position. You are the boots on the ground. You have an opportunity to explore and investigate, to ask questions, so that you can head off an issue before it becomes an issue. You get to hear clues, you get to hear red flags, you get to hear things and see things that can trigger potential issues before they become an issue. You're like a detective, right? Briscoe and Green. Anybody know that? Those guys? Come on, Law and Order fans? Come on, Briscoe and Green were the best detective team of all time. Okay, how about Magnum PI? There you go. Then you're kind of like Magnum PI, all right? Or like Dora the Explorer. Okay? Your job is to ask questions. And there's 3 primary crime scenes that you ought to be aware of. 3 primary crime scenes. Number 1, eligibility. Eligibility is a big crime scene. Number 2, ownership. Number 3, contributions are the 3 crime scenes you should watch out for. So here's some terms and phrases you might hear in each one of those crime scenes that should take the back of your ear and make you sit up and listen. So terms that would flag eligibility issues would be things like part-time. If you hear that term, run for the hills. No. If you hear that term, ask questions. Why? Why is that such a big deal? Because I guarantee you, the way your plan sponsor defines part-time is not how the regulations define part-time. What about the term rehire? Seasonal. Interns, those pesky little interns. Or here's one of my favorites. They don't work enough hours. Here's some terms that you might hear if in the ownership crime scene that you might be unaware of, right? We just bought a company. What you prefer to hear is we're thinking about buying a company. So you get ahead. We just bought a company, that's the problem. I own another company. My spouse owns a company. My spouse now works here. My kid now works here. My spouse now gets paid but doesn't work here. Those are all things that you should be listening for. But what about the third crime scene? Contributions. Anything to do with bonuses, overtime, or anything else that's not normal salary is a potential clue. Here's some of my favorites. Okay? Oh, I'm out of time? Yes, I am out of time. That's the sign. No, you're not out of time. That's like standing up. Real quick. Here's one of my favorites on bonuses over time. Number 1, we don't allow them to defer off bonuses. Are you sure? Is that what the document says, or is that what you say? We don't withhold from their bonuses. That's their bonus. They should be able to just keep that. Really? Is that what the document says? What about timing of contributions? That's a big thing. Listen for that. And it's not just about when they upload it. If you start hearing your company is having financial problems, that's the time to be extra diligent in making sure that they're making their contributions on a timely manner. Heroic questions. If you hear anything, a clue, a flag, pause. Don't just dismiss it and move on to the next page of the plan review. Pause. Ask questions. Understand what's going on. Involve the TPA. Save the day and cultivate a brilliant plan. Thanks very much. Perfect.